So the first question is for all of you. How do you believe technology will change how we interact in the digital but also in the physical world? They're shy.
Well, I think question is, it's not really how it will. It is already changing the lives that we live every day. I guess all of you felt some days we're living in a Black Mirror episode. And I think, if you want to see how the future is going to unfold, just go watch Netflix, really. That's what's going to happen. But, I do believe personally there is one mega trend that is happening already, is hyper-personalization. We do live in a world of data. With the rise of AI, this data can be used to favor business growth, more targeting of users, people having access to better information. So I think this is really what is going to drive everything. All the rest is going to be partly a byproduct of that.
I think I would like to narrow it down a little bit more into how Web3 technology would change our everyday lives, because of course technology has been a big part of the last century, and the fourth industrial revolution is that one of technology. But more so, Web3 technology specifically is making a huge impact. And Web3 technology consists of blockchain, of big data, of AI. It's such a big mix of different types of technology. And just like Andrea said, it is already integrated into our lives today. From blockchain where I live in Dubai, and I give this example quite often. You go through the airport, you don't need to scan your passports because that technology is already on the blockchain. But we don't need to know about it because it's seamlessly integrated into our everyday lives. To recent stablecoin, AED dirham-backed stablecoin, which we announced, to even into in my agency, the use of AI, not just to create content, of course, ChatGPT, but things like putting CVs through AI, CVs being able to kind of resumes or CV, I don't know how you guys say it in London, but what are the traits of like successful CVs, and kind of narrowing it down to that. So we're implementing technology so much to already, like, self-driving cars. Elon Musk said this morning that that Tesla is not just it's an automotive company, it's an AI company, right? So it's already there around us in our everyday lives and being integrated seamlessly.
I agree with the side above, and that the technology is already changing our lives a lot. And if to talk about specifically Metaverse and spatial computing, I would say Metaverse is some kind of quite a buzzword, and like everybody just calls nowadays just a normal game, Metaverse. And even we saw the example with Facebook, which was rebranded to Meta, just because of the big narrative about the Metaverse. But basically it remains the same. They have like some products launches, like the digital avatars and etc. But literally it's the same website. So basically we have been always present online, and our presence online, especially with the younger generation, is bigger and bigger. So we see the societal shift from being present offline to be present more online, and it's differentiates the interaction between people, and how people meet currently online. They can communicate with each other, and their location doesn't matter at all. So from one hand it makes our lives easier, but from the other hand it as well makes quite a distance between people when they meet in the real life. And second big use of the technologies, and especially of Metaverse, I see in the industrial complex. We see that different factories can make the prototypes of what they're building, like in the digital format, using VR, AR, augmented reality, and so on. So I see a big future in that, but basically we don't really need a blockchain for those Metaverse prototypes.
I'm really interested in what we do with our data. We know what big companies do with our data. we have an opportunity to discover for ourselves what we can do with our data. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And what are the most significant society changes you can anticipate? So not only about extended reality or spatial computing, metaverse, NFT, blockchain, and all the buzzword, you know.
So I'll go. I think when we're specifically speaking about the metaverse and spatial computing, one of the best case studies that I guess appealed to me as someone who studied pre-med is probably how it's affecting the medical industry. It's incredible how doctors can now not just use robotics to perform surgeries, which has kind of been around and don't have to worry about shaky hands anymore, but also kind of get a better idea of like what they're performing, the surgeries they're performing, or the complexities through spatial computing, because they're getting just a real life kind of experience through digitally. So that's a very important case study. I think the other thing that's very important and aligns with me is we have a foundation. It's called Luna Foundation, where we educate girls in India, and some of them just don't have access to classrooms. But it's interesting because in India, everybody has access to a smartphone. So it got to a point where when I went to the slums to visit the girls in the schools, the slums like tiny, like everyone can't fit into one classroom. But they all have access to smartphones, so they can access classrooms virtually. They can get the same opportunity as someone would attending Oxford. So I feel like the educational component is very important.
Can I just spice things up? Because I like Anna's angle on most of the stuff can actually be done away from the metaverse. Like, we don't really need that. At Impact Fundry, we did do some feasibility studies for major brands that wanted to explore the space, to then realize that actually it's kind of useless because there is absolutely no proposition, no value add. And I have to say, this is one of the themes I've seen this morning as well coming up a lot. Different panels. Like, there isn't really a value add that users can find yet, unless you're a gamer specifically or like someone that is in a specific niche. So if you back to your question, like how do you see society changing? If we focus on metaverse, I think no change right now, and probably not for the next few years. Then if you want to talk about data instead, and how, again, what you just described about how doctors use these solutions, right? As much as they do, others do as well in different industries. There is such a new generation of new data and information. So what is the effect of these, for example, in privacy, in other areas, ethics, is law covering, is it not, regulation? So it opens a whole other Pandora box of questions, I guess. Probably I will look at it from more on the data perspective than metaverse or something like that.
Yeah, I was more curious about your forecast, actually. Not what's happening now, but your forecast, your anticipation, what will happen in the future with this technology. So like you mentioned, like your vision of the next Black Mirror episode.
I don't want to monopolize, but I can go ahead if you want.
I know you want to reply.
Now, I think, look, and I'll be brief. There is more data, okay, and it's just gonna get worse in terms of more data is gonna be produced. There is gonna be more information, and it's gonna bring a lot of troubles, I think, at some point in the very short run. And I'm not sure we're ready to face that from a legal perspective, from an ethical perspective. If I look at, again, the merge of technology into reality. If we look at anything that is related to spatial computing, vision, XR, whatever R you wanna name, it's kind of a blur space, but I think it's gonna be more and more converging towards a hybrid space rather than fully virtual. I don't think that is gonna happen for the next 20 years probably, but hybrid is the solution right now. If you look at Metaverse, third bit, I don't think is anything relevant for the next probably 5 years, at least, if not 10.
So what I'm really excited about as the world gets smaller is the average person doesn't get to make something from scratch. You know, you might not think you're expert enough. And the best thing about like the perfume DAO is we say you don't need to be a perfume expert. You can be anywhere in the world and you get to make a perfume from scratch. You get to help out, be part of that from the beginning. And yeah, that's been a delight for me to see, and I like to see everyone in this room do it.
Yeah, I would like to add more on the spatial computing and on the side that we will see the change when many hardware technologies will be more affordable. And we saw the release this year of Apple Vision Pro, and that's when the time when everybody started talking about spatial computing. Before we had like a buzzword Metaverse, and now we have another buzzword spatial computing, but actually it has been already developed for years. Like other big companies, like for example Lenovo, as well released their Lenovo AR glasses. They have like different models and they are even more affordable than Apple Vision Pro, but we don't really see a big adoption of those hardware devices because first of all, like just for the average person, they're still quite expensive, and everybody just adjusted to use their mobile phone or laptop to get the access to all the technologies. But from the other side, in the future, if we see these devices to be cheaper, people just would like maybe to experiment and to have those, and we will see bigger sales and bigger adoption of those devices. And as well, we see as well like Meta partnered with Ray-Ban, and they released now their glasses too. So that sounds cool when you can just go around and search something on the web through your glasses. And as well, another side is that you can, with AI technologies, you can recognize other people's faces and get the data. So it's another challenge about the privacy and etc.
Nikita, what's your forecast?
I think I already mentioned, I feel like, you know, I think technology is advancing faster than the regulators can even grasp it. So, and I think that the regulation is very important because we don't know like how quickly this is moving. If you even look at something so simple as ChatGPT, the first edition versus this 4, it's like complete change. It's like a day and night difference. And I think what's scary is this Sam Altman was in the same class and learned from this man, I think Jeffrey Hinton or something like that. He's the godfather of AI, basically. And he mentioned in an interview recently that he feels that Sam Altman cares more about money than the security and kind of the way that AI is moving. And I think that we have to be very careful. I think that founders and entrepreneurs need to kind of have a very ethical standpoint when it comes to this. You mentioned Black Mirror. This literally could be an episode of Black Mirror. Like, AI is advancing so quickly, and there needs to be some type of regulation to kind of just manage all of this and manage the founders and ensure that this is not just a focus on business and making money.
And I think it's a tweet of today, a post Elon Musk did today or a few days ago about the decentralization of the AI. So
he said he won the Nobel Prize, and it was ironically on that the godfather of AI.
And he said that basically we don't have to be scared about AI if it is decentralized. So because we are in the topic, do you want to say more about that?
I think we don't. I think blockchain technology / decentralization will help solve a lot of issues. We've spoken a lot about privacy and security here, but I think that's where blockchain comes in, gives everyone a little bit more transparency, a little bit more ownership. But how do you get the large conglomerates to give that away, right? Like, that's literally, data is the biggest commodity. So how do you get them to not have so much possession over your data? That's a tricky question, and I think that's where regulation needs to come in.
I just want to scare people a bit more, if you allow me. Just doubling down what you just said, Nikita. How many of you took 23andMe? The test, the DNA, you know, the thing that tells you your ancestry and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Yeah? Right. You know who's the founder of 23andMe? The wife of Sergey Brin, one of the founders of Google. So even when you get the whole blockchain narrative in, right? It's like, how do you even from a human perspective make sure that there is no other connections, other interests? Turns out 3 weeks ago, the whole 23andMe board, they resigned altogether. I mean, I don't want to get conspirational here. It's like exactly the same day that the news came out, but that's a different story. And again, how do we ensure now, where every single word is blurring in, like how do you ensure that there is no connection between, again, the data owners, other companies, and so it just gets even more complicated.
Blockchain.
Yeah, exactly.
That blockchain even tracks supply chain. Like we would be able to track where your DNA is going, who is using it. Like it needs to move on the blockchain.
Agreed.
It sounds a bit like a controversy around WorldCoin, which is blockchain project of Sam Altman that they gather this eyeballs data.
About this morning, actually, someone mentioned that now they abduct people to actually steal their wallets. So apparently they abduct them in the streets and force them to somehow look at this WorldCoin so they can steal their data. Like, it's very dangerous out there, basically.
Jamie, before you mention data, so I think you want to add something to this.
So yeah, being in control of your own data, that's a new concept for the world. Understanding what you can do with it, that's completely new. Like if you're looking for a whole new industry, look at that. Look at what people can do with their own data. That's something I'm very interested in working on right now. So yeah, bit of alpha there for you.
Yeah, and I was also curious about your DAO. What's the lesson we can learn from the organization of a DAO in our daily life?
The lessons.
How we can use the lesson we learned in our daily life?
I mean, the biggest lesson is it worked, and that you can do it. Everyone in this room can do it. Our hardest problems were trying to organise like meetings in 3 different time zones because we had people in America through to Indonesia. We had crazy problems like it cost us $300 in import taxes to the guy in Indonesia. But the rest of it, everyone can do. It was Miro, Notion, a designer, and a bunch of people with a bit of passion, didn't necessarily know a lot. One of the funnest things we learned was space has a smell. And that's the kind of thing you learn in these crazy groups. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. So are there any questions from the public?
Hi. I'm wondering, with everything going on with AI and data, and since there's so much to kind of get into, how would you advise someone learns about AI and data without any preconceived beliefs or notions, and where do you kind of get the right information from if all these different people have different agendas?
You can come attend one of my lectures if you want. I'm very unbiased. And the thing is, the more resources and the more sources you go and find, right, the better your information is going to be, right? The better your knowledge is going to be. There is no one unique source of truth, right? But also technology is pretty straightforward. Like, you explain it once and that's it. When it starts getting more complicated, maybe you can find different school of thought, or what is better. Is better supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement model, whatever. But it gets a bit more technical. I think overall, the more you inform yourself, the more you're able to do your own understanding of what it is like, and that's really what it is.
Okay, cool.
I would say take a scientific mindset. Your opinions and biases are fine, but take a scientific mindset and you'll adjust.
Okay. How can I find your lectures?
Yeah, I'll send you a link later.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for the panel. Round of applause, please.